Scott Bessent, the billionaire hedge fund manager that Donald Trump has nominated to be the next head of the Department of the Treasury, had his confirmation hearings in the Senate this week. And things did not go exceptionally well for him, because unfortunately Mr. Bessent kind of gave up the game when he decided to tell everybody that the top priority for the Fed, for the Treasury, and of course for the Republican-controlled Congress is making sure that wealthy people like himself get a tax cut. Because, he warned, if y'all don't give me a tax cut, there is going to be calamity in the United States. So here we are, folks. Roughly 45 years after trickle-down economics was first introduced in the United States, it has failed every single time it has been implemented. But here we are 45 years later going through the same thing where rich people tell poor people that they need to give more money to rich people so that eventually the money from the rich people trickles down to the poor people. Even though it's literally never happened in practice, we're still having these same conversations. Because those are the only conversations that the wealthy elite like Mr. Bessent want to have. But here is what he said during his confirmation hearing about those tax cuts. This is the single most important economic issue of the day. This is pass-fail. If we do not fix these tax cuts, if we do not renew and extend, then we will be facing an economic calamity and, as always with financial instability, that falls on the middle and working class people. We will see a gigantic middle class tax increase. We will see a child tax credit cap. We will see the deductions halved. It has the potential for a sudden stop, and as I said, traditionally with these sudden stops, it falls on working Americans. Let me go ahead and educate the next Secretary of the Department of the Treasury about what those tax cuts actually did. There are plenty of reports out there from left-leaning groups, from independent groups. The right-wing groups tell us tax cuts were great. But here's what really happened. You're talking about like, we lose all these deductions. Nope, we actually lost those deductions in that tax cut package. You took away deductions for working class and middle class people. We can no longer write off the expenses of our home offices, which is where I am right now doing this every day. So I lose money on that. Teachers can no longer write off the money they pay out of pocket to buy the supplies for their classroom. And as I've mentioned, I spend several $100s a month on supplies for my wife's classroom and sometimes for other classrooms in her school. But y'all cut that down. We can't report all of that anymore. We can barely report any of it. So we already lost a lot of our deductions in that tax cut package. Meanwhile, what's also included in the tax cuts that he says we have to extend or it's calamity. You, Mr. Bessent, can go buy a private jet right now and you get to write off the entire cost of that private jet. I can't write off the goddamn copy paper that I have to buy for my wife so she can teach your kids, but you can write off the entire cost of a private effing jet. If you believe that trickle-down economics in any way, that tax cuts for the wealthy is going to help the working class, the middle class, you need to have your head examined. We have been through this song and dance for 45 years, and not one single time has it grown the economy. Not one time has the middle class done better. Not one time has it not sent us into a recession. That's right, folks. Every single time we do this, we end up in a recession. So don't let these morons, these wealthy SOBs, tell you that they need tax cuts. It will not benefit you. It will tank the economy because it's done it every time for 45 years. And this is just their greed talking, trying to convince you that it's really all about you. Oh, and by the way, to make things a little bit worse for Mr. Bessent's hearing, that's not the only horrible thing he did. At one point, he was being questioned by independent Senator Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders decided to ask him about, raising the minimum wage. Obviously, based on his previous testimony about how we have to save the middle class, then clearly Mr. Bessent would want to raise the minimum wage above $7.25 an hour. Here's how that exchange went. Bernie Sanders asked, "Will you work with those of us who want to raise the federal minimum wage to a living wage to take millions of Americans out of poverty?" And Bessent replied, "Senator, I believe that the minimum wage is more of a statewide and regional issue." Sanders then asked him, "So you don't think we should change the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour?" And he said, "No, sir." So this billionaire hedge fund manager that's going to be in charge of the U.S. Treasury says that he cares so much about the working class. Right? We have to pass tax cuts to protect you. We have to pass tax cuts so there's no calamity for you. That would be the calamity. And then Bernie Sanders is like, "Hey, cool. You care about these people so much. We got a federal minimum wage that's been stuck at $7.25 for a couple decades here. You want to help us raise it?" He's like, oh God, no. Totally not doing that. That's a state's issue. And then Bernie Sanders is like, "Yeah, but this is the federal minimum wage. It's what we, the government, pays our contractors. So it's actually it's not a state's issue because DC is not a state. Like this is the federal level, bud. We got to do that." And he's like, "Nope, no, we're good. Let's just let poor people suffer. But don't worry, I'm always going to pretend like I give a damn about their problems." Did you know that you might be missing out on wonderful content from me? I mean, you're here already because clearly you like what you see. So if you're not already, please do subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video, share them with your friends and family, but also follow me across the rest of the social media world. And it's not that hard to do. Whether it's X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, on every one of those platforms, you can find me at the username @FarronBalanced. Simple enough, right? So get on it. And if you don't feel like going to each one of those outlets individually, lucky for you, we have links in the description of this video to take you right to my pages across all of social media. So don't miss a minute. And while you're at it, make sure you're also subscribed to the Ring of Fire YouTube channel, which I have been hosting for many, many years now. We've got more than 1 million subscribers over there, and there is fresh content over there every single day of the week. So again, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to this channel, and while you're at it, go subscribe to Ring of Fire at youtube.com/The Ring of Fire and @FarronBalanced across every social media platform. That, of course, is not considered just a far-right hellscape. Well, maybe Twitter is, but that's a story for a different day.